Goose Chasers, we are back. We are back. You boys are back in the studio getting busy on some podcasting shit. I was actually in Puerto Rico last week, so we took the week off.
This is how they do it down in Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico, ting tong tong tang tong ting tong tang. Wild place, man. Wild place. Very interesting. And it's part of America. Who knew? You don't need a passport to get to fucking Puerto Rico.
I didn't know that. I think we talked about it in our last podcast. I'm pretty good at geography, but
You know what? And
I didn't
like
know.
I'm not like uncomfortable by any means in like, being out of the country or anything like that. But there's definitely something to be said for literally being on an island in the middle of fucking nowhere. Like far from any.
Yes.
I mean, you're far. We're closer to South America than we were north.
Yeah.
I mean, we're out there in the middle of the ocean.
It's how we were in Curacao, and you're just like, I mean,
This fucking crazy.
see, I get that feeling when I'm out of the country. I don't know why. I'm just like, I'm not home. And if shit hit the fan, like, and they lock the gates or something, you ain't going home.
You ain't going home. I know. I was thinking about that too. I'm like, what if like, this shit that everybody's talking about with like technology just cutting out or whatever? Like, what if that shit goes down while I'm here?
Yeah.
That would be fucked up.
Yeah, you're done.
Yeah.
You feel like you are anyway.
I mean, yeah, if it happened here while I'm in Nashville, like I'm hopping in the truck and I'm heading up to camp.
Yeah.
We're getting into the bunker, baby.
Not doing that on an island.
Lock her down. Yeah, I ain't doing that from Puerto Rico. You better have a hell of a good kayak.
Yeah, you're building some sort of float out of crab traps.
Out of fucking driftwood and crab traps.
Driftwood and crab traps, and you're just Tom Hanks in that all the way to
Give me my volleyball.
Florida.
Oh shit. Well, it's a gloomy day here today.
Oh, well, it's gonna be here, but doesn't feel like March. That's for sure. It feels like June.
Wild. I did a little shed hunting walk yesterday. 75 degrees. I was in a t-shirt. I had to spray myself with the permethrin because people are already talking about the ticks and the chiggers down here. Insects are already coming out of hibernation. It's crazy.
I can see in my yard that the tulips, the flowers are coming out of the ground. I'm like, well, they're getting tricked. Yeah, they're gonna get frosted.
They're gonna get snowed on
in March or April, but
for sure.
But that is crazy. It's 70 plus degrees right now here and sunny.
That's wild. Bipolar weather here, but I mean, it is kind of nice that the winter has seemingly dissipated, at least right now.
Punxsutawney Phil was right. Well, so far.
He was right.
I thought that was a hoax.
For one time in his life. Old Punxsutawney. I mean, yeah, I'm looking at the weather right now, though. By the weekend here, lows are back 32. 54 is a high. Lows in the 30s into like the beginning of next week. It's like
this is what's going to happen for the next 2 months.
Yeah, unfortunately.
You just got to hope you get a week stretch here and there of 60, 70 and sunny.
We're destined.
We're destined
for it.
Early spring, early summer, that would be great because I don't want to be turkey hunting in the snow.
Not this year, no, definitely not. And speaking of that, I was on my way home. I marked this on OnX, but I drove past this field that had to have 100+ birds in it. I've never seen as many turkeys. I'm like, holy shit. It was a cut bean field, and the field was huge, dude. Huge. Hundreds of yards across, and it looked like there was turkeys littered all like throughout the whole field. I'm like, every turkey in Tennessee has to be down in this field right now.
They're still flocked up, huh?
Apparently, no strutting action though, which is I'm actually not mad about because sometimes you don't want them to peter out too early.
You know, that is funny because, oh man, last year I feel like this time, even the tail end of some snows, like even in New York, you would see them strutting,
Yeah.
and we have not seen them yet. They're there. I mean, they're there.
Yeah, the birds are
They're
there,
just
but
we
there's
haven't seen them strutting yet,
that is
which is
very
good. And
interesting.
they're actually, it seems like they're just starting to like break up a little bit. Like normally you see a flock of 40 to 60 birds or whatever.
Yeah.
Just seeing like 12 to 15 and or you're seeing whatever, 4 or 5 longbeards together. Yeah, I don't know.
They're going to start puffing themselves up here shortly, I guarantee it. I guarantee it. Oh shit. What else? What else?
Um,
I was talking to our boy Parker yesterday. He got my juices flowing a little bit. Just different content ideas, and I mean, kind of on the topic that we've been running with a little bit throughout the beginning portion of this year on the podcast, and just the change in the shift in the hunting industry and how it's making us feel, how it's making other people feel. And, you know, I think there comes a time where like you can kind of you can point out the quote unquote problems or whatever. Um, but it's like, yeah, what's the next step? How do you do how do you do something about it? But it's crazy. Like we were kind of going over, and I don't know if I want to give it all up, but we were going over our Kansas experience, and the the experience kind of the way that it ended was not necessarily how it may have ended in like previous years or 10, 15 years ago. It certainly wouldn't have, yeah, it just wouldn't have been the same. And we had a great week. We saw amazing buck activity all week, mornings, afternoons. We saw rut activity in December. Who would have thought, missed a deer on the last night of the hunt. And then that night, we were kind of going over photos, or maybe it was the night before the actual last night of the hunt, but we were going over photos and stuff like that. And the one in Parker basically took one of the bucks off the hit list. And all the while, you and him were talking to me about, getting back on the saddle and just getting back in the blind for whatever, an hour, hour and a half, however long we could give in the morning before we had to roll, just to see if something could happen. And lo and behold, like the buck that he took off the hit list comes literally, I mean, it couldn't have been more perfect. It couldn't have been a more perfect scenario. Like he read the script so much, he gave us so much time to prepare and get ready. He gave us multiple shot opportunities, one being like 10 yards, literally 10 yards from the blind. We're on the freaking ground. And he has no idea that we're there on a semi-marginal wind. And so I guess my point is, talking with Parker about that and him, he's kind of being hard on himself to where it's like, he thinks about it all the time and, how the trip went and how it should have ended or could have ended compared to how it did. But it's almost like some of this stuff happens, in my opinion, because of a bigger cause, because of like
definitely.
that, I don't know, because of like us speaking out about some of this stuff now. And I don't have any ill will, or I don't think any less of Parker at all. In fact, in the moment, I think both of us were like jumping the string at, damn, like we should just shoot this buck and ask for forgiveness. But we're both men of our words. We've learned the hard way and to some degree at times, and that just wasn't going to happen. Like we weren't going to go against what we had promised him that we were going to do. But it just it kind of it I don't know. it brings up the topic again, and he brought up the topic with me again, and that, it essentially it was because of the big deer or the lack thereof, I should say. And not even that it was a lack thereof, because I would have hammered that deer. I would have gladly and proudly put my tag on him and had a shit ton more meat in my freezer than I do right now. But ultimately, like, the decisions that were made in that moment by us and by him were because of the big deer.
Yeah.
And it's just, yeah, it's crazy how it works out like that, but maybe it's for a bigger cause, maybe it's to teach a bigger lesson, maybe it's for our content to pivot and go in a little bit of a different direction. I don't know. But it was kind of cool to hear more of his perspective, and I think a lot of his perspective came from he was just at the Iowa Deer Classic. And I've never been there before, but I can imagine in the state of Iowa, like, it's big buck. That's a big buck state. Like, that's really all they preach, they talk about. That's why it's so hard to get in there as a non-resident. And so I can only imagine that the Iowa Deer Classic is guys swinging their wieners around and saying, "Look at this." I
Look
mean,
how big my buck is.
yeah, I just,
Well, yeah, it's like to me, it's a bubble that's got to burst because it's not, I don't want to take this away, but it's not like ordinary anymore. It's not impressive. Not that
there
it's
isn't
not like
much impressive.
like, yeah, I appreciate it. Like I do, because like I just appreciate like a deer antler, and it's not because of to me, it's not because of like I shot this and it's this big. I just am so infatuated with the fact that I think antlers are like the fastest growing cell in the world.
They
And
are.
just the whole concept of them intrigues me. It doesn't matter what the sizes are.
Why do some grow bigger? It's not
Yeah,
not. Why
it's
do some
it's
grow non-typical? Why are some yeah, I mean,
and what are they gonna do the next year and this, that sort of thing. In fact, like I'm just infatuated with it. But like somebody shooting this big deer, I don't want to take away from people, but it's not impressive anymore. Everybody, I feel like these 160, 180, 200-inch deer, everybody's shooting them now.
right.
Not everybody, but they're all over the place. Social media, like
Yeah.
go on social media in November.
Right. Well,
If
even you see these big bucks in like North American whitetail and stuff like that. And I mean, it's cool. Don't like, yeah, it's cool. It's some of what we chase, but a photo, I mean, I guess a picture speaks 1,000 words, I guess, but you don't have a clue how that deer was taken, or was it scouting that got the job done, or was it just luck, or was it a corn pile, or was it like you
yeah,
don't like you some of the tactics that we get friggin' smoked for online, like literally buried 65 feet under the ground for, that are completely legal. I've seen the magazines. I've seen the deer. I know how they got taken. Ask me how I know.
yeah,
Produce outdoor television. Ask me how I know.
yeah.
Like,
But
I mean, I'm
those
just,
some people, they don't film. They write it like they're just writing an article about it.
but
They're
what?
not saying, "Oh, the deer was coming into my
Right,
corn pile."
right.
They're gonna
But
say it like they went out and scouted and like been watching the deer all summer and they've been hunting it, hunting
yeah,
it.
and that's all.
It's fine.
I'm not taking away from anything, any of that. But what's the difference? You shoot 150, 160-inch deer off of a corn pile, and this guy shoots a 220. Okay, there's a 70-inch difference. But the means of taking the deer, what's the fucking difference? Why is that one any better? Uh, I got news for you. It's fucking not. Besides the 70 inches that we came up with the measuring tactics for, it's not. It's not like taking the animal is not any different. It's not any better because it's bigger. Why is it better?
Yeah,
But
it's crazy. It's just, yeah, it's a crazy hunting world we live in that I think has just evolved through technology, and everything is just created it to into this monster that it is now. But I feel like there's going to be a shift, because even when you go, I don't we don't go to every trade show and whatever, but they just feel different now. Like,
yeah,
you see guys walking around that they're like holding their rack of their buck that they shot that year, and
yeah, they're
like,
like,
I don't know, it's just like, what are you doing?
yeah, what is it?
What like
What is that for?
what's
Other
that for?
than yeah, what is it for? I mean,
Like,
it's cool to be proud of it.
for
God
sure,
bless.
for sure.
But yeah, I feel like that's
But it
like
seems to me
somebody
like they're less proud of the story. They're more proud of the bone,
right, 100%.
or who they did it with, or like,
Well, you can't market the story.
yeah.
You can market the bone, and that's all these companies in the hunting industry. I mean, you can't market towards having fun. What are you gonna market towards having fun?
Yeah,
Use
what
this
products
product,
help
you'll
that?
have
Yeah.
more fun.
Yeah.
You can only market towards use this product, you'll kill giant deer or whatever. You can't market towards fun. You can't market towards camaraderie. You can't market towards a family tradition. I mean, you can, but you probably will not be successful.
Yeah.
But I mean, it goes to like it's so different state to state too. I mean, I've never hunted Iowa before. We're still trying to gain points for it. I do want to experience it for sure. But the big buck movement, I mean, if we're gonna talk about states and this and that, like Iowa kind of played a role in that. Like Iowa. I mean, you guys are kind of the leading people at like we really only give a fuck about big deer. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it takes like 5 years to get a non-resident tag there now. And dude, they do it. I mean, they do an amazing job. Like, yeah, if you want to kill big deer and you want to put yourself in the greatest or one of the greater opportunities, that's certainly the place to be. But you also hear like landowners and stuff like that at odds with each other when they got like 3,000 plus acres to fucking hunt in Iowa. Like they're
Yeah.
going at each other like, oh, don't, this is my deer, that deer, and whatever. It's like, yo,
It's funny. You just always want, doesn't matter what the conditions are, what the regulations are. You always get complacent with the ones you have, and you want better, or you want to complain about the ones that are there. And it's insane to me that you hear people talk about this, like in Iowa, and you guys don't know how much you have it made.
right.
You know, like even in, uh, like Parker talked about this in Kansas. Like he runs this outfitting business, and there's other landowners that get pissed about it. It's like, do you understand something? Like, first of all, we could go on a whole rant about what out of state people bring into the state and the small towns and the
Oh,
economy
just from
influx.
just from an economical
Like,
standpoint,
try to
for
run
sure.
your businesses in these small towns with nobody else coming in. See how
Yeah,
well you do.
yeah. Good luck.
Yeah, good luck. I mean, it's no different in North Dakota. Like, we we go to the cafes and try to support the local. Like, if duck hunters and people didn't come into those small towns, they
It's
wouldn't be open for business.
it's a town of 300 people.
You wouldn't have business.
You
These
have
people wouldn't be making a means of any living. They would have to move somewhere else probably.
yeah,
But it's
but
just funny. Like, they go, even somewhere like Kansas, you can get people that are like, hey, these people aren't from around here. We hear it. It's so stupid because
we hear it in New
we
York.
hear it
We've
in
been
New York.
landowners
It's
for
like
30 years.
the non-residents, like, you're not from here, get the hell out of here and stop shooting my deer. It's insane to me. But I just go back to, you hear the kind of the same thing in Iowa or Kansas. Like, you guys have it made. You have to apply out of state to get there.
Yeah,
Like, come to Ohio, New York. it doesn't matter who you are, what it doesn't matter. You can buy a tag and shoot a buck. Like
Yeah.
there's no, oh, once it hits 20,000 tags, they're done. Nope. They just
No.
keep coming. New York just keep printing them. Like I don't care who you are, we'll give you a tag. I don't care
Yeah.
how many deer there are. If there's more tags than deer, we're gonna keep printing them. But then you get people in, New York, or Kansas, Iowa, whatever. They get pissed about that other people coming in there, and it's just like, be a
This is what
little grateful for the amazing state that you are living in and have to hunt.
well, yeah, and the reality of it is that's kind of the staple on your specific state. Like that's the draw. There's no other draw. Like you got cornfields and fucking beans. Like there's no other draw for people to come there.
Yeah,
There like that is the hunting is the draw, and I certainly think that there's plenty of it to go around for all of us, but we just get a little bit greedy in the fact of like, we want to acquire more land and this and that, and if you work hard and you can do that and gobble up land and have that under your belt, then that's God bless you. But like, well, I feel like you're kind of fighting yourself at a certain point where it's like the out of state people aren't that bad, or or state to state. I mean, we kind of go at New York based on their regulations a lot. It always it's very peculiar to me, like why, and maybe they do this behind the scenes that we don't really know about, but like why do different states not look at each other and try and emulate what the other state is doing if they're looking for different results? Like why doesn't you know, a New York look at an Ohio or a Kansas or an Iowa and be like, okay, maybe we don't need to require like 4 years worth of points to build this up, but a little like a lottery, a draw or something like
yeah,
that, like
limited amount.
maybe that would be beneficial. Maybe that would create a little buzz. Maybe that would increase the quality of the deer herd. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
it's so I always think about that too. I think a lot of it's just who's running the programs, who's running the states. Because New York, they don't give a shit about their deer. Like they don't give a shit.
No, but they'll tell you that it's all
Oh,
for conservation.
yeah, exactly. And they tell you that we got the best biologists and studying this shit. No, you don't. No, you don't.
Yeah, and you're not putting any money towards it. You're asking for the money. You're asking for more money.
Yeah, and like, yeah, I could go on a rant about New York, but it's all run. I mean, go outside of hunting. The whole state is run from a little place, big place called New York City that should be its own freaking state because the whole state of New York gets represented from that city, and the
Yeah.
whole state of New York is not New York City. The whole state is people like you and me. It's beautiful country. It's Adirondack Mountains. It's rolling hill. It's country. It's farmers.
Yep.
It's people like us. But the whole thing gets blanketed by New York City because
Well,
that's where the people are,
and
or
it's
at least
sad. Yeah, and it's sad too because like you look in our area in New York and the downfall of agriculture in the past 5 years, let alone the past 10 to 20. Like the downfall, think about how many less fields are planted in any sort of agricultural crop up there now.
yeah,
The regulation that like somebody's putting the farmer out of business. The farmers just don't decide to stop doing that shit. Like it's either generationally it's getting pushed out, or the regulations and shit are too hard or too expensive or too something
taxes and
to make sense of creating crops there. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess it goes back to like, some of the social media stuff where we get bashed on. It's like, don't hate the player, hate the game. Like, hate the state that, if you got a problem with it, hate on the state that's putting out the regulations. Like, we're just following the rules. We didn't write them,
yeah,
but we hunt states that literally have all different regulations.
Yeah.
In North Dakota, you literally can't use any battery, anything on a bow sight. You can't have a battery operated anything on a bow sight. It's got to be simple, turned off, battery's got to be taken out, whatever. Like, in my opinion, that's a dumb rule, but we didn't fucking write them.
No.
You
Yeah,
know,
and I think there's a couple other states that have that too, but it's just, it's don't.
some states you can't use a lighted knock. That is asinine. That is asinine. It only aids, once again, in my opinion, it only aids in the recovery of that animal or to the decision on how you're going to try and recover that animal, as opposed to giving you any specific advantage.
Yeah. Yeah,
But you
no, the thought process on some states are just, it's insane.
makes no sense.
It is insane. That's why it's funny. I would love to meet certain people that are like, where are these decisions actually getting proposed or
Right.
officially made? Because it's like you're not thinking. But
I mean, even Ohio, like the end of September through the beginning of February, the season doesn't need to be that long. I love it because it gives us an extended period, like
no, it
time to
doesn't need to
hunt.
be. No.
But it for the deer's sake, it doesn't need to be that long. It just doesn't. Baiting. I mean, we could argue here, there, nowhere, whatever. But once again, that has an economical impact on Ohio. That has an economical impact on Kansas, on North Dakota, on some of these, on any other states that allow that. Kentucky, like that's got an
It's benefiting
economical.
farmers.
Exactly.
I mean,
It's got an economical impact. And now there's companies within the hunting industry that have literally are built around that and that
yeah.
tactic specifically. So yeah, I mean, you can do it in some states, other states you can't. But in the states that you can do it in, if you're following the rules and being legal, I don't know.
It's not an advantage it's not an advantage.
If everybody in that state area is doing it. It's like you've said it before. It is an advantage if you're doing it illegally
And no one else is.
and no
Yeah.
one else is. Yeah, or very few other people are, whatever. But it's not an advantage if you're
And sometimes, I mean, yeah, it's an advantage, but sometimes it's like we've talked about this a million times, but people think a bait pile for a deer is like a bug zapper. I always say that, but it's like all my senses go out and I see it and I smell it. I got to go right to it. Like there's plenty of deer, big deer especially. They don't even bat an eye at that thing. They don't
yeah,
need that shit. They don't need to eat your freaking corn.
right.
I mean, we've seen it in any state that we can use bait and put it down. A lot of it's, even just for trail camera. They're there. They don't need to go there.
Right. No, they don't. They didn't. Yeah. There's a plenty of browse throughout the forest that they can figure their shit out.
But yeah, again, it's funny. People will, you bash that in Ohio, oh, that's cheating. There's no, okay. If that's how it is, then why is Ohio still like a top 5 big buck state?
Right.
You've been able to hunt on corn piles, I don't know, since I've been alive. I think there was a time where you couldn't, but
Yeah, since we've been hunting, you can. And it's
you-
it's got you can bait deer all or you can feed deer all year long. It's got one of the longest standing seasons in the country. Time like open to close, one of the longest. One of the shorter firearm seasons, sure, but one of the longest seasons, and you can use a crossbow any time
all
of the year
year.
that you want. And it's still one of the
And
top 5
anyone can
states.
come and anyone
And
can do it.
anyone can come
It's
do
not
it.
even like you gotta have a point. Like you wanna freaking have a tag in Ohio. Come
And
on in.
it's not even that expensive.
No, it's not. That's what's even
It's cheaper than
crazier.
New York.
That's what's even crazier is like some of these states you gotta apply for whatever. I mean, it's crazy. In Illinois, Iowa, these are expensive tags.
Yeah. Yeah, no, they are. They are. And there's no,
Ohio's got to be one of the cheapest states in the country.
for non-resident. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is exactly, but yeah, it's got to be. I think it's like $100 for the license, and like I think my tags this year were $70, but I have a lifetime license there now. I just have to buy tags, but I think my tags was $70. You can go and hunt in one of the top 5 big buck states in the country for under $200 for your license and tags. That's insane.
Why
And
wouldn't you come here? Well, you know, if you're a big time
but
hunter,
that's why, I mean, that's why the land prices and leases and shit like that. I mean, it's
it's skyrocketing.
yeah,
Or
it's
it already did, but it's still just going up and up and up because anyone can come in from another state, lease something up, and get a tag every year.
right. I think the one thing that does help Ohio is the $1, no matter what. Like
Oh, for sure.
$1 throughout gun, bow, whatever. Like you get $1 and that's what you get. And then per county or per region, it's, depends on how many doe tags you get. Like for us in Geauga County, we only get 2 doe tags. So it's not, I mean, you can shoot 3 deer, right?
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yep.
So like I don't know. Like fuck, down here in Tennessee, you could shoot 3 doe a day for the entire season. 3 doe a day for
Like
the whole fucking season, dude. That's
it's
crazy.
like Canadian geese going duck hunting.
I mean, and obviously nobody does that, but
No.
it's just that's crazy to me. Is like there's a ton of deer down here still. Like we see a lot of deer, but it's like how when you have those regulations, like if you how is that possible?
Yeah. That's wild. That is wild. But people are after they want to fill their freezer, but they're after bucks.
Yeah,
It's funny. I was like, even when we were growing up, you didn't go in the woods. Nobody told you there was a deer that was off limits. Like
right. Oh yeah,
when we first started, like we would be like, okay, guys, just don't shoot any button bucks. Like,
yeah, but
just
and
don't
that
shoot a button buck. Like, try not to, you know,
but yeah,
which would still happen.
which yeah we
Still happen all the time.
all the time,
Like the
dude.
button buck comes in by itself, and it's funny because Dad's notorious for this, but it'll be like it's by itself. There's nothing to compare it to. Hey, look, it got me all fired up as a big deer. Go up as buttons on it. But that was all that was all, and that was after a while. Like those weren't even off limits for.
A
And
while.
again, that was just in our camp, dude. Anywhere else, there was no deer off limits. And like, I mean, you go back even farther. How did the friggin' Indians hunt? If you told one of them, like, oh, you got go in, you're hunting for to feed your whole family, but there's only one that you can shoot.
Yeah, they don't shoot that 8-pointer. He's going to be a giant in 3 years.
Like, that's like growing a whole bunch of corn, and you can only harvest some of the cobs that are north of 12 inches. You gotta let the rest gotta rot.
Damn. Imagine it. Imagine if like
Farmers would be pissed.
yeah.
There wouldn't be any.
Imagine if like like the human to human game was that way. Like what if what if like women were picking men based on their horn? I don't know.
Their
Yeah, he needs
hog. Some of them do.
yeah, some of them do. Hey, he needs a couple more years. Babe, I'm 30 years old. This shit ain't growing any bigger. You gotta take it or leave
Yeah.
it.
If anything, I'm past my peak. It's getting smaller. I'm going downhill.
Oh god, that shit is hilarious.
My best day is always today.
Ain't gonna be any better tomorrow.
Ain't gonna be any
There
better
ain't no
tomorrow.
promises.
No.
Oh god, that's hilarious. But you're right. That is a very, very funny. Like you're preparing all year long. You shoot your bow. You want to be dialed in. You shoot your gun. You want to be dialed in. You got food plots. You got all this stuff. You got, the tree stand set up perfectly. You got trail cameras out and everything. And, it's all good. And then you go in and you're like, don't shoot anything
Everything.
but that one.
Everything.
And then you don't like if you're in a like if I mean think about it. You know, it's like we got this whatever 100 and who gives a fuck inch deer, but and that's the hit, that's the one. You know, that's the one on the hit list, okay? Don't shoot anything but that one. But then it's like, okay, you know, for instance, for us, like if we have friends or, you know, whatever, come up to camp, you know, we're all after that target buck, but also like, you know, Dean, you put in 85-90% of the work in up there for the food plots and this shit and that, you know, moving cameras and all that stuff. Like, I mean, if anybody's deserving of killing that specific deer, it's you. But what if somebody else kills it? Then it's like, are you mad? Are you a little disappointed? Are you like, you know what I mean? It
Yeah,
just it throws that it like I don't
it
know,
throws like a stress into.
into it. That's so unnecessary.
Yeah, I know it is.
Like I
I
think
mean,
about
honestly, even I've even told you this, but yeah, like I yeah, to an extent, you want to manage deer, but I'm like, if people, if whoever's hunting, if you want to shoot a buck, I'm like starting to get to the mentality of just shoot it.
yeah,
Like I get it, but like even like I mean, you just told the story with Parker, and like last year, you know, cousin D came up and hunted, and we had a friggin' list of bucks that was off limits.
right.
Like
Well, we all I mean,
we had
for
a
all
group text going with all the bucks that were off limits, and then like after I looked through it all, I'm like, which ones are on limits? They're all on this one, you know? But and yeah, no, again, I get it. When you're doing all this work, it's for a reason, and that's just part of the joy in doing it is seeing the deer get up. But like one of the beautiful bucks that we were letting go walked right by him, and he didn't even pick his bow up because he knew
yeah.
he
Well,
shouldn't
even
shoot
I
it.
mean, Uncle Jay had that deer a
Yeah,
couple times too. And I
Uncle.
like I think for Uncle Jay it's a little bit different.
Yeah, he
He's
shot
shot
some really big deer, well, nice deer up there,
yeah, up
mature
there,
deer.
period, anything, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
And,
But
you know, but for
for
Cuzzy, I
for
mean,
him, that's a New York, like, yeah,
he's never shot a New York buck
that was an
before.
incredible experience, and like, and he filmed it or had it on film. I just like I think about it too. I'm like, I took that away from him, or we did, and I'm again, if the deer makes it, I get it. But look what happened. 30 hours into rifle season, he was dead from the neighbor, and he didn't like he
Yeah.
could have been, yeah, like
Well, and I mean, the only contrary I can say to that is you got a 17-year-old kid in the neighbor that just shot the biggest deer that arguably maybe he's ever seen, but definitely that he's ever killed. And this kid is on cloud 9 in the woods on opening day or opening weekend. And partially it's because we weren't greedy in taking that deer.
yeah,
So
that's
like
100%.
that is I think that's the silver lining in that one. And when I look back on that deer, like Uncle Jay, I'm sorry, I love you. Like he shot deer like that before.
Sure,
So I
yeah.
don't. But Cuzzy is a different story, and that would have made an awesome story for us. It didn't happen, and what happened. But the fact that we did pass that deer allowed a 17-year-old kid in high school to shoot the biggest buck of his life and to really get something that we loaned for at that age more than anything. I mean, think
Yeah.
about that. You know what I mean? Like you're 17 years old, you just shoot a buck of that caliber, you get to go to school on Monday with photos and all that. Like you're the man. You're the
Yeah, you're right,
fucking
man.
man, dude. So
And that one worked out well. Like that deer, it walked by anybody with a rifle in that woods, and then he's getting shot.
Right. And
So
I mean,
any neighbor, it doesn't matter. They're shooting him. So
right.
thank God he walked by uh the person he did. But again, I just go back to it like I don't know. I've been so back and forth with it. I mean, it's it's hard for me to swallow sometimes how much the way people hunt has changed.
Yeah. Well, and I think and I agree with you, and it's been very difficult for me. This season was difficult for me. I made it difficult on myself because of that reason. I made it difficult on myself because I had that mentality. I had that mentality of like, I'm too proud to shoot this deer. I'm going to let this deer walk. I'm going to wait for like the one cuz we've put ourselves on this pedestal now of that's how it has to be now. Like we have to feel like we have to shoot the biggest buck of our life every time that we go out there, otherwise we can't pull the trigger.
Yeah, otherwise you're not credible or something. Like
That is ridiculous. Like that is so beyond ridiculous, and it's so beyond why we started hunting in general, let alone started tag and brag. And so like, yeah, I mean, my mind over the last couple months, especially into 2024, has been just churning with how can we change this or help? You know what I mean? How can we change this or help? Because going back to Parker, he's like, man, walking the Iowa Deer Classic, one too many youth walking around there. Why would there be?
yeah, they feel like they can't even.
Why would there be? There's dudes carrying around their 200-inch deer, and that's all anybody gives a fuck about.
Yeah.
Like
And
the
like again, going back to it, when you were a kid, when we were kids, there was nobody telling us what we can or cannot shoot.
right, right.
Nobody was like, it was like if you, and that's what's happening today.
Dads are telling their kids, don't shoot
Don't
that
shoot
one.
this 140-inch buck because he's 3 years old or he's 2 years old or whatever.
Holy fucking shit.
And that's not fun.
It's not fun. It's not the point. It's not the point.
Because the kid's not like maybe he's helping and maybe he like that's what he's getting into wanting to do this, but he's not doing all the work. Like
Right.
and if he is and he's into it, that's a whole different ballgame. He's a different breed. But if you're just taking somebody hunting,
Right.
that's like trying to get into it for the first time and you're seeing all these deer and you're like, no, we can't shoot that one. Can't shoot that one. Can't shoot that one. They're gonna be like, well, what's hunting then?
Yeah, what
Like,
can I shoot?
what is hunting?
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it goes back to our last conversation of like of going through the motions of being a hunter. And that's all the motions of prior to the shot to getting to the point of getting the shot and then everything thereafter. And all of that shit is important. That's what makes you a hunter. You know, I was talking to a couple of my buddies down here and they didn't grow up in a family of hunters. They're not built, they don't think and stuff like that the way that we do. And they're just like genuinely curious and asking me like, what is it for me? And my answer was at a young age, because dad brought us up to hunt camp, because dad threw us into the mix, and like there was some shit going on at camp or at hunt camp that I don't know, maybe at those ages we necessarily shouldn't have been exposed to or whatever, but it made us feel like we were already at that like maturity, at that age. It made us feel older and bigger and better than we were. And then when it got to the point to actually pull the trigger, when you pull the trigger and you are able to harvest your first deer, and then you're able to clean that deer, and then you go through the skinning process with your dad and you take the back straps out and you watch those back straps get taken out, cleaned up, and literally gone from field to table. Like when you're putting the meal on the table at 12 years old and those cutlets are all from you, from the deer that you got, the sense of providing is something that you can't describe at that young age. You know, that sense of providing is it hit me, at least. It
Yeah.
hit me it hit me deeply. And that's why part of the reason why we're doing what we're doing still. But I don't know. That was it. But if I would have been told, no, you can't shoot that one, or like that shit would have taken a lot longer, you know?
Yes.
Who knows how long it would have been to like really grasp on and, feel like you were a part of something far bigger than yourself and be able to provide at a very, very young age, which, not a lot of kids and people get to do. So yeah.
Yeah, it added the whole excitement to seeing any deer. Like it again, you could
Oh
see a
my God.
button buck and you were like, your heart was pounding out of its chest.
Yeah.
And it's
Because
so
you're like,
funny
this is the
because
time.
I feel like that happens at that young age. And if you don't get brought up into hunting in that way, like if you're getting told like, you can't shoot this one, you can't shoot that one, it becomes less exciting when you see deer because you're like,
Oh,
I'm not going to be able to shoot it.
right.
So like it's funny that we get all these comments on YouTube and Facebook of like how we act like idiots basically when we shoot a deer, which I think
Yeah.
is hilarious. Because I was just watching a clip of Roger Raglin.
Yeah. Oh my
Dude, it was
God, dude, that was the guy back
yeah,
in the
that
day.
was who we followed, but he was
Jiminy
literally
Christmas.
this was like 2 days ago. He was on a podcast talking to somebody, but he was all fired up and like, like
Still.
he's so like theatrical with it. But he was like, if you don't feel that, what you're why are you hunting?
Yeah, what are you
Like
doing?
that's what we do it for.
Right. Oh,
Like someone
100%.
was asking him about like buck fever, and he was like, I get it every freaking time. He's
Yeah.
like, if you don't get that, get out of the woods.
Yeah. What are you doing it for?
But I just laugh at all these people with that like comment like that because like what do you do? What do you do when you shoot a deer? What do you just like stone cold face up? I'm gonna get down my tree and
Yeah.
I'm gonna go get the deer. Like you're just a killer. You don't even
Yeah.
like that's actually kind of concerning behavior.
Yeah, you have zero remorse, you have zero feeling. Yeah, that's the concerning
Like
behavior. You're exactly right.
that's a lot of that's a huge emotional process from the excitement to the sacrifice to the like start to finish. It's an incredible wild ride. Like we've been in tears and people are like, who's this like bitch? Like this
Dude,
pansy friggin' can't keep himself together. No, we can't because this is how we
this is how we feel.
this is the passion that we do in the sport. And if you can't handle that, then go do something else.
Dude, I mean, the Nipsey hunt. I'm 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 in the blind, bawling my eyes out. Prior, I hadn't even seen. I'd seen like 2 deer. And I just sat there because we spent the whole week. It was Kane's first time ever being up in New York. And dude, dad shot cherry bomb literally the afternoon that Kane got into town, got to experience recovering that whole deer. And then we spent Thanksgiving with him with our whole family, got to introduce him to like literally the whole family. Then we come back up to camp. We have a couple great hunts with him. He ends up shooting a doe. He's on cloud 9. Kid's never been out of North Dakota hunting before. And like I got into the blind and I'm putting myself in his shoes as whatever he was, 15 or 16 years old at that time. And what he just got to experience, dude, it brought me to tears.
Yeah.
Like eh, I'm not like I'm an emotional person regardless. But that was like all real shit. Like
Yeah.
that was just literally, and I just turned I had the cameras going, started talking and kind of explaining the week and how it made me feel and us feel. And it all kind of stemmed around that giving back to, to Kane and giving him something that he's never experienced before, dude. And it just, the waterworks poured out. And I got shit for that.
Yeah.
But I don't give a fuck. Like you
Yeah,
can
no one else is
you
gonna document that. Like
nobody else is going to
that's where
document that
yeah.
for sure. But you don't know how this makes me feel. And if something moves you to that point, which I hope everybody gets to experience something in their life that can move them
like
to that point. But when something moves you to that point, you don't have control over your
No.
emotions. And I lost it. I mean, fuck. The Godfather. Fucking bawled my eyes out during that hunt too. for a little bit of different reasons. But dude, we put ourselves in a position on a deer that was legendary up there. We saw him. Like just the presence, knowing that you were in that deer's presence, that shook my core.
Yeah.
Dude.
Oh, it did
Like,
mine
that
too.
shook my core. Do you remember the day after how sore my whole body was?
Mine was too. It
Was
was just
sore as shit.
so much stress.
That
Like tenseness.
that 24, 36 hours of you shooting Sventech, us being on cloud 9, we wake up, we're going to go back in, and then we get a trail camera picture, and we have an opportunity to go after a deer that we've literally never laid a naked eye on, and a lot of people hadn't in that area. And we go and get an opportunity at him, and then when it felt like it kind of slipped through our fingertips, fuck, dude, I lost it. I mean, it was like, that was emotional. I mean, the deer itself, like that life, like that's what it was. You know what I mean? And like, he could have had any size rack at that point. The rack size didn't matter, and he's not my biggest buck to date, but the aura around that animal and around that life, fucking hit me, man.
But yeah, again, I thank God that we are into it that much to get that crazy and
100%.
emotional. Because
Yeah.
again, I just go back and you read comments like that, and I'm like, I honestly laugh because I'm like, thank God we are like that. Otherwise,
Right.
what would we be doing? Like, this would be boring.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be doing it.
Boring. Do you remember, like, growing up? This is prior to us having camp. We'd be at the cottage, and we'd have it would be a group 15 deep, cutlet meal laid out. It was so fun. That was back in the day. It was
Saskatchewan salad.
A blast, dude. We had a big ass round table, family style round table. You could probably fit 10 to 12 chairs around the whole thing. And we would, Dad, Uncle Jay, Uncle Ricky, like everybody would be cooking, Uncle Fred, Uncle Jimmy. And we'd get done with a meal, and you'd throw all the food out into the middle of the table, and people would just be passing shit around, passing bowls around, cutlets, pasta, salad, bread, and you'd just be cutting up. Dude, I remember sitting around that table, literally crying my eyes out, laughing so hard at some of the stories that you would hear from, like, Uncle Fred, Uncle Jimmy, Cousin Davey, like Uncle
they're like
Ricky,
standing up and reenacting these
oh
stories.
my gosh, dude, and a bunch of paisanos. Yeah, dude, a bunch of paisanos just getting animated and loud, and as the night went on, the stories got crazier and louder, and probably the lies that were told were
getting larger.
But we would sit down, and we had those old VHSs of Roger Raglin, and we would watch that dude on the TV.
That guy was the best. He is the best.
He would shoot those giant bucks, and we would be like, holy shit, dude. This dude, I mean, like, the deer that he would shoot were unfathomable, but even more than the deer that he would shoot was his fucking reaction.
Yeah.
He would come unglued every single time. Every time.
But they weren't even, some of them, like, you look back and they were like, obviously then they're giant bucks.
Well, yeah.
But like, I remember him, I just remember a couple of the deer he would shoot, and he'd be like, oh my God, that's a Pope and Young buck. That's a freaking Pope and Young buck. And like, Pope and Young, it's a 125-inch deer.
Yeah. Yeah, these days it wouldn't have fucking mattered.
That's not even a thing anymore.
Yeah. A Pope and Young buck. When's the last time you heard somebody say I shot?
It's just so funny because that dude would come unglued. He would like walk through the woods and like feel deer shit and be like, "Oh, it's warm. I'm gonna run up my climber right here."
Right. Oh, you're
like, stuff like that. Like, there's no trail cameras. There was no nothing. It was just like deer sign. I'm doing this, and then he would just like some of the stuff he's still like if you follow him to this day, it's awesome.
That's so great. That's so great.
But a lot of people don't get like that anymore.
We need to bring back the reaction.
Bring back Raglin.
Bring back Roger Raglin. Jiminy Christmas.
Jiminy Christmas.
Jiminy Christmas. Holy Jiminy Christmas. Look at that buck. Jiminy Christmas.
Oh, it's amazing. Well, my camera just died.
Of course it did. We're at 54 minutes.
Yep.
Right on schedule. Well, yeah. I mean, we can wrap it up here. I mean, it's a pretty good talk, I would say. Any of you cool kids out there listening, just go search Roger Raglin. Watch some of his hunts and feel the emotion. Feel the power that he created with his emotions. It's powerful stuff. We need to make hunt camps great again.
Got to.
We need to make hunt camps great again. Like
maybe bring back deer drives or something.
Dude, the deer, absolutely. That is something that we will be doing. We will be finding somewhere and finding people to do that with and document it for sure this year. But regardless, like just the hunt camp, that is it. Bring back hunt camps. Make them great again. We're going to partner with Donald Trump on this message. And it's going to be make hunt camps great again.
Even if it's like small game hunting, I mean, that's kind of that's deer driving on a smaller level. But as I took a couple, not to get on a different rant, but I took a little walk yesterday while the weather was good. And I kicked up, 3 or 4 grouse. That scared the living piss out of me every time because you're back in the woods by yourself. You're walking through cover. It was dead quiet in the woods and just a bluebird day. And them things come thundering out of a freaking thicket, dude. And they scare the hell out of me every time. Doesn't matter. You can be waiting for them.
Yeah.
But I kicked like 4 up and you remember doing that as a kid. Those things would scare the shit out of you when you were 5 years old.
Yeah, driving deer.
And you're just like, you thought it was a deer coming out of a bush, and you're like, oh my God, that was louder than a deer. like you think a freight train is freaking coming out of that.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you say that because when I was walking yesterday, I probably kicked up 3 to 4 rabbits. Remember rabbit hunting back in the day, dude? Dad used to bring us rabbit. That was like a thing after deer season.
We still wanted to taste of the walking with a gun.
Go get after it.
Walking with a gun, and your family or your friends. That's what it was, and we would go do it. And I don't know why up there we don't have the rabbits that we used to. I don't know.
Probably coyotes and shit.
Maybe it still seems like there's not coyotes behind every damn bush. But either way, there's grouse because
they're coming back.
Picked up a lot.
Yeah, no, they're definitely coming back, and they were for a while. You didn't.
No.
Didn't. But also, once again, we're hunting different. We're sitting in stands. We're sitting on a food plot. We're not getting into the cover like we used to.
But I was in there yesterday, and them things came thundering out, and that was reminiscent of just walking with a gun and.
Dude, we used to bring those.
Just hunt. Just go
hunt.
Just go bring a gun and enjoy the woods and hunt stuff.
I mean, we used to bring rabbits and grouse back to the cottage. Grandma would cook them up. That's what we were eating back in the day. Crazy, man. That's why, I mean, like you talk to TJ, you talk to Corbo, like those, I mean, they want to get into hunting, but
they like the camaraderie part.
They're tough. Yeah, they're more interested. They've done deer hunting, they've done duck hunting. They're more interested in the duck side of things because they can hang out with their boys. Yeah.
Sit in a blind and cook a freaking egg sandwich.
Like those are the dudes.
Ducks.
That's what we need to. Those are the dudes we need to go do some man drives with.
Yes.
Like, hey, Corvo, post up on this ridge. You're going to be sitting there for like a half hour, 45 minutes, and there's going to be deer that are going to be guns blazing, running by you at Mach 30. Lead them, motherfuckers, and let it rip.
I love watching some of Hunting Public's drives.
Yeah,
because you feel the excitement from that. There has to be excitement with that.
Well,
especially when they get a deer or they get like a decent buck,
Yeah.
We're like, oh my God. Like, how did that work?
Because they didn't know he was there.
No, they
The
didn't know he was
unknown.
there. And you don't know which one it is. You don't know how big it is. You don't have trail cam. It's just, yeah. It's fun hunting that way.
This will be a story for next time, but got to tell the story of that wide 10, Uncle Ricky's wide 10. I don't think that we've told that story before.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
that was a man drive for the ages. And and we were all involved in it. Actually, you might have been.
I wasn't here. I was basketball.
You were hooping.
But the deer drive the deer wasn't even in the drive.
No, it was time.
Someone else was driving deer.
Right. It was a timing thing.
The drive.
Yeah. And then it ended up absolutely insane. And at the time, probably the biggest buck that our group had ever shot before up in New York. Yeah. I mean, that deer in that time of New York, that was a freaking giant.
Yeah.
That was a giant, 24 inches wide. I mean, he only had like probably five, 6-inch tines.
He's like 130-inch deer.
But
so wide.
And he was just he was an old bruiser.
Yeah.
I mean, he was an old, strong warrior bruiser, and that was just fucking insane. Holy shit. But we'll have to reconvene on that one next time.
For sure.
But if you don't already, subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, and subscribe to our Spotify. We'd love to have y'all consistently on the pod. If you want to hear anything, drop a comment below. But for now, make it a good week.
Hell yeah. God bless.
Go do something cool. Shoot your bow.
And be passionate while you do it.
Mm-hmm. Love it. Love every minute of it. And we'll see y'all right back here next Wednesday.
On Goose Chasing.